Assalamu
Hassan, your
alaikum
camera is not
and
open.
good evening, everyone.
Hassan, your camera is not
I
open.
welcome you all on behalf of ACFE Oman Chapter Board in our webinar session, Conducting Fraud Investigations More Efficiently with Data Analytics Methodology and Tools. We have joined by Mr. Rawahi, President of ACFE Oman Chapter, and our distinguished guest speaker, Emmanuel Pascal. Without any further delay, I will call our President, Mr. Rawahi, for welcoming us. Over to you, Mr. Khalil.
Thank you, Hassan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. Dear attendees, I want to thank you all for attending this webinar, and we are glad again to have a professional speaker with us today, Mr. Emmanuel Pascal. We really have a very hot topic today, as the importance of using the methodology and data analytic tools in fraud investigation. It's really enhanced our ability in investigation, and it also helps us to know the hidden relationship, which also allowing us to monitor them in the real-time manner, which increase the performance and facilitates the risk-based approach and strengthens evidence gathering. I hope you all really benefit from this session, as you know, it is only a 1-hour session. And as you know, our goal to conduct this session is to enhance the awarenesses of anti-fraud, and aligned to that goal, we also want to increase the number of fraud fighters. Therefore, do join our association, and also do pass the exams of CFE to be a certified fraud examiner. The chapter team here, and also myself, happy to support you. Therefore, please do reach to us if you have any queries. Thank you, and over to you, Hassan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. President Khalil Rawahi. Now it's time to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, who is going to share his knowledge and experience with all of us today. Mr. Emmanuel Pascal, CIA, CFE, and CRMA. He is a graduate of ISC Paris and obtained an executive master's degree in finance from HEC Paris. After 3 years at Arthur Andersen, he created and led for 5 years the internal audit department of the French museums. He then joined the corporate audit department of the British food distribution leader Breaks in 2005 as a corporate audit manager, and he became head of the internal audit department and compliance of the Continental Europe division in 2015. After the purchase of Breaks by Cisco, he led the internal audit team in Europe until 2022, covering mainly SOX, compliance, and fraud investigations. After Cisco, he worked for a cybersecurity consulting firm until he set up his own firm. Mr. Emmanuel Pascal's work included developing practical and innovative tools for internal audit and to fight against fraud. He regularly takes part in conferences in France and abroad to present the data analytics method to detect fraud. He has been developing since 2010, including the ACFE Europe conference in 2015, where he presented data analytics techniques. He teaches audit in the Master at Vinci Executive Education University, Paris, and teaches the use of data analytics in investigation in the Fraud Certificate of Paris Dauphine University, where he trains investigators and compliance officers to use his methods. He recently trained auditors in Karachi, Pakistan, and is an online trainer for international organizations such as GLC. He is one of the hosts of the fraud group of the CIA, Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors UK, and is a part of 2 international committees of the ACFE and IAA. Mr. Emmanuel leads Counter-Strike, a consulting firm which is based in Paris, specialized in fraud risk mitigation and investigation with data analytics. He develops data analytics methods and trainings for auditors, compliance officers, and investigators. He also helped them set up and implement their data analytics projects. This was the brief introduction about today's our speaker, distinguished speaker, Mr. Emmanuel Pascal. Sir, we are eagerly waiting for your presentation. The stage is yours. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you tonight, because it's a night for you, the afternoon for me. So we have, I'm really happy because you can see your very active chapter. I recently attended the latest webinar you have, and it was very interesting. I have a tricky assignment today because I am going to talk about data analytics, and you will see that there are some difficulties, there are some reluctance, and my ambition is to motivate you to be able to work with data analytics. I know you may be using some tools now, but I will talk to you about more. My ambition is, on the bright side, is to share with you my passion for data analytics, because it's something I'm doing for about 20 years now. And so, as you mentioned, so I'm now managing my own firm, Counter-Strike, which is it's a training and consulting. So my job is to design data analytics frameworks and test, but also training for companies to help them improve their data analytics methods and framework. So today, what I'm going to do is to give you some insight and some bits of my trainings and advice to give you, as I said, to motivate you to start doing data analytics. As I know you read, you gave a lot of information about myself on my introduction. Just I'm one of the first CFE in France. I was CFE in 2008, and I'm also part of I'm part of the international committee for the CFE exam, and I'm also part of the Institute of Internal Auditors, where I'm in the group committee that is managing a report like Risk in Focus. So, and also I'm a teacher, as you said, so I'm not going to talk about it, but just to say that in Dauphine, we are training compliance officers and investigators, and specifically on data analytics. So we have a specific session with use case and exercise, and the same with Léonard de Vinci, which is a school in it's a business school in La Défense in Paris. In my introduction, also I would like to say that my experience is based on the field. I learned from the field, and especially on data, operational data, accounting, technical. I have, and recently cyber. I have managed all type of data, and also covered different type of use, from fraud to crisis management with data. So I have been looking at different areas. It's my own methodology. As I say, I design it, and now I've been, for 2 years, I've been looking at other areas in data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence in theory to improve my methodology. But basically, what I'm going to show you is mostly what I design. So of course, tonight we're going to talk specifically about fraud. And just one thing to say, that fraud is essential now for fraud investigation. We were just chatting before about it. It's essential, it's crucial. It was from a nice to have to a must have today. And but at the same time, I spoke, as you said, I spoke at the ACFE Europe 10 years ago about data analytics. I think it was one of the first presentation about data analytics in Europe. And my feeling now is that there's not too much change, and I have some doubts about maturity for investigators and for auditors as well. I don't know if I'm right, but I will use a few bits of this report. I know you must have heard about it. If you don't, try to download it from the ACFE site, showing the recent trends in the use of data analytics to fight against fraud. And as you can see here, you have the areas where it's used, and it's going to there are some what is interesting here is that you can see that not less than 50% of the people are using data analytics from this survey, of course, from the respondents, are using data analytics to use for payments, and that's, for me, it's not enough, and we need to motivate people, and you can see it's shrinking. And the other thing is that you can see there was no change because I took the results from last year, from 2 years ago, and there was not a lot of change. If we look at the trends, what is done, and we can go further after in detail on this, you have we have exception reporting, we have predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, text mining. All this, we will talk about it after, but there is no change in 5 years. So there could be not a lot of progress, I would say. And but as you can see, it's the second line, there's a lot of expectations. And as on the slide before, you could see that people wanted to put some money. So what is wrong? What is the issue? And this report is also very interesting because it shows the challenges, why there is an issue. And the first one is about money. It's a financial issue. We will talk about it. Staff skills. What kind of skills? People are afraid of using data analytics because they think they don't have the right skills. There's also a question of regulation and legislation. And there is also a question of excessive false positive. I will come back, because if you don't know data analytics, you want to understand false positive. It's very technical. It's not that technical, but it's an issue you are facing. So basically, we have this reluctance. It's too expensive. It takes too much time. And there are some legal issues. As I am also a DPO, data protection officer, certified data protection officer, so I'm very aware of things about data privacy. So I can say, yes, you can use data analytics, but you need to, I will explain after why you need to be cautious. Yes, on the bright side, people want to increase, but as I said before, there's a lot of expectation. People are always saying that they will do something. And that's a shame, because there are so many benefits to work with data analytics, because you can find things you could not find otherwise. And as an investigator, you must have conducted investigation. You know, you need to be discreet, you need to work in confidentiality, and working with data analytics can help you do this very discreetly. The second thing is that you can work faster and do added value, and also work on a larger scope. And this way you won't miss evidence, because that's one of the threats, one of the issues you can have within investigation is missing evidence. And when it comes to trial, when it comes to prosecution, one of the things is that it helps you proceed in compliance, and because you can have robust evidence, because you can trail, you can explain what has been done. There are logs, and you can show where the evidence is coming from. And at the same time, when you prosecute someone for trials, you need to assess the impacts of the money that has been stolen. And data analytics can help you quantify, because it can go everywhere. You can go backwards and identify over years how many, what was the impact of the fraud. So that's very a must-have now. And at the same time, when you talk to your marketing colleague, he's going to talk to you about CRM, about chatbot, digital tools. So that would be a shame that you don't have your own digital tool. So one of the issues is that when you discuss, when I teach, when I talk to my colleagues, is what is data analytics? And I was a bit concerned recently because I was in a conference and the guy said, this is what is data analytics? There's a widespread use. And one of the first items he showed, it was people are extracting information into Excel. And I said, no, it's not what I call data analytics. So, but I learned, and now I show you. I'm going to show you. A chart that defines really what is data analytics. First thing is that I don't know if you remember this movie called Minority Report. People were saying, "Oh, this is magic. It's fantastic," and some people said, "No, we're doing it. It's predictive analytics. It's not statistics, not magic. Police in Los Angeles or wherever is already using it." So there are some myths. There are some people, and one of the myths, the myth we are facing now is AI, and some AI false promises. People think this is going to change everything. But there are some reality, and one of my fears that people are forgetting about all the efforts you have to do data analytics, but thinking that AI is very easy. Data analytics is a way to work with data, but to answer questions and to understand situation and all this thing. But what is important is not techniques, it's methodology, because it's help you answer the right questions, but you need to ask the right, help you ask questions and solve, but you need to ask the right questions and really understand the situation, and also have the right mindset. In this chart, it shows that there's there are different types of data analytics. Then you can say, if you do one of these, you can say, yes, I'm doing data analytics. Prescriptive, it starts with dashboards. That's descriptive analytics, which is mainly dashboards. And then you have diagnosis. Diagnostic is going to be like when you look for root cause analysis. Why do we have a situation? Then you have predictive. Predictive is very simple. Of course, you have done a business plan, and so the first three are very common. The fourth one is a prescriptive, and this is close to what I do. What I call data analytics is that we are going to set up model and to test hypotheses, and you change variables, you change information, or you're checking results. So these are and you can see it's the most complex, but also the one with the most value. Just to say something about, to compare with what you know. So data analytics for me is you are setting up a model based on a hypothesis, and then you have an extensive use of data. So you are going to take, I will show you the different type of data you can use. And then you are combining all this data to solve hypothesis, and then you interpret, you do it the right way. If I compare the other one, generative AI can help you, give you some ideas, maybe some formulas, but it's not going to solve you by itself. You need, it's not magic. It's not something that is going to replace you, but it can help you. Machine learning, It's interesting if you're lost, if you don't have any idea, it can help you identify correlation, for instance, between data. And AI, when you do an investigation, don't think about AI, because AI takes a long time to put in place, and you need a lot of data. But it's true that data analytics is, and especially when you put KPIs or automatic controls in place, it's close to, it can be close to what people are calling AI. But what is important is to have an analytical mindset and to rely on data and to think in terms of data all the time. I like this. It's my sentence, but I like it because when I talk to people and I say, how do you do things and how you control things, they show me a document, and I said, this is a document, this is a picture, it's a snapshot of a situation, what happened before. And there has been a lot of fraud recently based on fake information, on fake documents, and because people have not been able to check them. And when you do, one of the things you have to have in mind is that you are able to ask. You should be able to ask for all the information. As I said, more than the whole picture, you need all the pictures, so that you can break down what happened and identify this as been changes during the period you are covering, and not relying just on the question. Imagine you are looking at the parameters for access in a system, and it has been changed 5 minutes before they took, they extracted the information about it. You'll be fooled. But if you ask for the last movements of the last 6 months, the movements of the last 6 months, you would be able to identify that something has changed. And if you consider cases such as Silicon Valley Bank or Wirecard, they have been based on fake documents, and these fake documents, they could have been challenged very easily if people had looked at all the information that would have been necessary to produce these fake documents. So bear in mind that there is a possibility, and you need to do dynamic audit, dynamic investigation by breaking down the information, by getting it. So why are you afraid of data? I have had a discussion with a Pakistani friend one day about it, and we have seen it was working in data analytics, and we have listed a few things. Volumes of data, they are software that can be used, not that expensive, and with this software you can use them. We can see, you know, that in Excel, for instance, the limit is about 1.2 million, but it can easily work with software on millions of lines. Even yesterday, someone told me about 2.5 billion lines tested, so everything is possible. Data formats, that's the technical part. I mean, maybe you're reluctant to work on IT because you don't really work, but there's not a lot of things to know. Integrity, you're afraid of the volume, you think that you won't be able to check it. There are methods to do it, so it's not something that can be challenged. And time, well, to train someone, I would, as a training people, it can take about 2 days to 5 days to be really good and at the analytics to be able to work, because you need to work on use case, on different situation, different formats. But 5 days to be more efficient, that's very affordable, and that's very something that can be done. What you need to have analytical skills, and this is why you need to train to think in terms of analytics. That means turning a situation into a formula, turning an hypothesis into a formula and an algorithm, and understand the potential also of data to put what data you are going to need. One of the other thing, and that's why you need a business skill, is to understand the business and a process and understand all the details, everything that can happen in a process. I will show you how to, in details what you need to know. Come back on IT and say there are basic concepts you need to understand, databases, parameters, logs. That's very basic, because one you need to know about IT and data analytics is that you need to rely on database and not on software, because software is just an interface between you, what we call API, and the database. So just skip the software and focus on the database. You need to understand also there are logs. What is a log? What can be? How can they be useful? And also one thing what is important to know is the bias. The issue with bias, that means what can change your opinion on the information and prevent you from working with objectivity. The objective here is that you can be you can work alone and in autonomy and become what I call augmented investigator. And I think you don't need too many things to be able to work with data analytics, but you need to have them all. That's the issue. Everything I showed you, you need to have them all, but everything they are small. They are not a lot to know, but it's a whole, because otherwise you will have to turn to someone else, and it's not efficient because one, it's not independent. What the other thing is that you need to explain to someone. There's a lot of confidentiality, and you can work slowly. It will be slower to conduct your investigation. So you need to have these basic skills. So usually we are going to talk about fraud, and I would say a few things. So of course you know what a fraud is, but I would want to explain one thing, is that there are two types of frauds for me, and I would take the picture of a door. That is, people. So you have there's a fraud that has been committed, and then this fraud, people are going to they use the door, they go through the door to commit this fraud. Well, in common frauds, there is an opportunity fraud, that means that there was no door, the door was not locked, there was no, and so you can do simple tests to identify this, to know what happened. And but on the other way, there can be issues such as, in fact, you have a fraud, but you don't know if they use a door. Maybe they use a window. Maybe you go by another way. Maybe they never came into it, but they committed the fraud. And for this is more complex fraud, and you need an advanced test with a different methodology. And there are different types of controls. They're going to be also different type of approach and sometimes software. So that's why there are some advanced tests, and without this advanced test, you could miss cases. I define, and that's true, or you always talk about data mining. So here I have defined layers. You have layers of fraud inside a company, and the first two, they are accessible. The first one can be accessible without the analytics. The second one, it can be accessible with simple tests, because it's easier, you compare two things. But the third layer you're going to have more formulas, more information, and a more complex algorithm to manage it. The fourth layer is very specific, because sometimes you can't use data because you don't have it, or they have a bad quality of data. And now we must, in Europe, we have a lot of issues with ESG because there's a greenwashing, and that's one of the challenges I'm working on right now, because we have to find the right approach to get to this layer number 4, because there's not a lot of information that is available. So sorry, oops, I've been too far. Oops. So what you're looking for when you work in fraud is that you have direct losses. Direct losses is something you are measuring, like shrinkage, and you have also, and you are trying to understand why you have direct losses. But you can have also concealed losses, something you don't know, you are not aware of, and you need to find it. So that's your objective. Also, here we're talking about investigation, so we need clues, we need to find clues. So that's the 3 objectives you have. And to use it, you're going to have trends, visualization, but also exception reports. So I prefer to have exception reports. And one of the other things I wanted to say is that you have the ability, you have an obligation of means here. When you do an investigation, you have to find different ways, and it's not like if you were a statutory auditor to have very accurate information. You can use alternative information because you have to find something by all means. Legally, but by all means, you have to find the things. 3 common mistakes you can do in fraud, but data analytics is going to help. The first one is materiality. So there's a double materiality. The first one is that consider materiality as human and not corporate, because sometimes people are not considering some losses because they are under the threshold, but they are important. They can be relevant for humans. And the other thing is that there is small frauds. Sometimes you don't discard them because they're small, but with data analytics, if you gather all the information, you can have the whole materiality. And when people are talking about data analytics, sometimes they talk about needle in a haystack, but I prefer to say needles because it would be more material. The other thing is silos. People are always thinking that if you work in silo, you are missing things. But with data analytics, you are going to be able to gather information about time, different periods, different entities to compare between entities, and also different type of fraud. You need also, and the third one is about getting out of the box, and you need to know that sometimes you have standard risk. You need to go further and to have a dedicated approach. That's because otherwise you're going to miss. One tricky thing is bribery. Bribery is difficult because sometimes you don't have any trace, and so people are reluctant to use data analytics. And it's true, because if you take the first thing of fraud, you have given advantage, what you are going to give. So if it's active bribery, I mean, you can trace company money, but you can't trace fraud. I mean, cash, people stolen in cash that is used to bribe people. You can only track company expenses, like so company money, such as like expenses, blah blah blah. And in passive bribery, you can't. But one of the approach you need to have in bribery and with data analytics is to consider the impact and try to assess the impact to understand if there's something wrong, and if there is a clue, there is a trace of any bribery by the impact. So the objective, you understand, and now we're going to talk about methodology. So the methodology is going to be, so there's the approach is a risk assessment. It's a typical one that we need to go a bit further. So I will go into details. Identify the gains. Also identify the process to identify, understand the process to identify the exceptions. And this is where we're talking about false positive, is that if you don't understand, you set up a model and you don't know what are the exceptions, you're going to have a lot of false positive. That is, you have results that can be explained, and you're going to waste a lot of time and money to resolve this, because in your model you did not take into account this exception. And also there's a concept I design, or I like to focus on, is what I call missing data. Is that a lot of times, most of the time, people are focused on the data they have. They don't focus on the data they do not have. And if they don't have the whole picture, all the view on the process, they can't identify that there is something missing and something that could be relevant for the investigation. Then, when you have all this information and you are confident with it, you can create a scenario with hypothesis to see how you can get access to these gains, and then you can develop a model, create a formula, and identify the relevant data. You can also check, and at the end you are checking, you do your test, and if you find something, you can also assess the actual impact. Just remember, you don't detect fraud, you are detecting clues or unusual items that, if they are, if you can show there was an intent, it can be considered as fraud. So that's one of the things. To just come back on what I said, I know you have a lot of very good jewelries in Oman, but just ask you to forget about gold and just think wider in terms of gains, because everything can be valuable. And as I said, that's why I was talking about jewelry, is that all does not glitter could be gold, as it just changes the American saying. And there are sometimes things you don't know, they can be interesting, and so people are committing fraud. If you don't understand, just remember that when I was working in frozen warehouse, I found that some people were able to eat frozen cakes, and that was very crazy. So sometimes people can they can steal something. To understand this, you need to understand what is it. So is there a market? Is there an interest for people? But also you need to do there's a marketing survey to understand the potential gain and see if there's a feasibility, if people can steal them, can get them, so there's capacity also. So this way you will understand what kind of gains fraudster could get from your process. And then you understand the business, as I said, rules, specificities, the steps, the controls in place, so that you are aware of everything that is happening, and you're able to understand the life of the data that is going through this process as well. And then you can see, so you can understand the life. The other thing you need to do is to identify the data flows. To understand this life of data, you also need to understand where the data is going. Is it going through an interface in a different software? And you need to break down the information, break down all the components of the process, and to understand, is there an interface? Is the data converted? And also understand if it's manual or automatic process. So once you understand everything, you can create a scenario, create an hypothesis to understand. So first, to remember the doors, no door. So the scenario could be very simple. So basic test to check the gaps, the lacks, the weaknesses, how people used the opportunity that were existing in your process. But also you can go further and have complex fraud, a complex scenario, and by assessing the red flags, you can identify. I recently made a presentation for an EA chapter about fraud in manufacturing that was based on the second type, where people were faking information so that internal controls could not see that there was something happening. But there was no gap in this control. It's just that they were concealing information to commit the fraud. When you build, then your data analytics job is going to be you can start and create your model. So either you work with activity, that means that you are going to get data from the activity and build a model on it, or you can work with parameters, because maybe you can identify your answer through the parameters. And then there's a usual thing, you train your model on a small data set, and after you use it, when you're ready, you can use it on all the information you have. What kind of test you can do? So this is the test the type of test I designed. You have compliance, so this is the most simple one, like it's going over a threshold expected by a policy. You can have consistency test, so you define in your company what is consistent. So it can be an area. So why are people, so maybe basic things people are looking at is working hours. So there is a transaction that is out of the working hours, or where someone is doing something outside his area. So this is not consistent with your organization. Or someone is doing something that is not consistent with his role. So but you need to define what is consistent. The second one is more basic. The third one is matching. In fact, you are going to match two information to see if there is something wrong. What I'm doing is that I'm showing you simple tests, but when I say complex test, advanced, it's because we are combining all these tests just to make it clear. It's a combination of this, but when you do advanced tests, you are going to use this type of test, but they are going to be combined. Match with reality. So in a matching test, you are matching things with other information. Behavior, it's the most added value. It's a most widespread test, and you will understand why. Because it's the most complex, because we ask you to understand the behavior and say what is different with behavior. And as you can see, there are round numbers. This is the kind of thing you use to duplicate round numbers and maybe bend follow. One thing to say about what is added value, it will be in the fact that you are going to widen the area of data you are going to use. So you have accounting data, operations. Normally you have accounting, then you can enlarge with operations data that is going to give you details about what is happening. And then you can ask your third parties, suppliers, to give you some information, some detailed information that you can put into your data set. And also you can use technical data, what I call change in parameters, logs, that can be useful for your analysis. You can also produce your own data from the other data by doing computation. And this way you will have a large data set that can be very useful to have the right information. and also that's a cherry on the pie. Benchmark can be also useful if you can get some information from your industry to compare with your result. That would be very good. Quick thing about unstructured data, because I'm going to talk about it after, but as you can see, it's also something that is useful. I was talking about false positive. Remember, when you have a fraud, it can be a fraud, it can be a mistake, it can be an issue with performance. You have a result, but you thought it was a mistake. It can be a fraud. As I said, you think it's a fraud, but in fact it's a mistake. An issue with performance can also be an issue with legislation, because but if you have done a correct job on the process, reviewing the process and identifying the exception, you won't have this issue. One of the issues that is very at stake right now is the IT failure. Maybe you heard about the post office issue in the UK, where people thought there were frauds because of software that was not working correctly. They have been fired, 700 people. That's a big failure. It's also show that you need to, when you do an investigation, you need to rely on the database and not on the software. So I'm not judging here, but I think that the investigation should have been done with the database and not relying on the software. And also software, they need to be tested before they are launched. Okay, so give you a few an example to do some practice. So I'm going to talk about lapping. Lapping is one of the first things I learned from the ACFE fraud manual, and that's very interesting. It's a very common fraud when you have cashiers, and I think it's everyone will understand. When you do lapping, you get money from a customer. So we are going to see the different the approach I explained: gain, hypothesis, sources. When you get money from your customers, or mostly cash, and so they're paying for an invoice, and there is a due date. So they have to pay on a due date. So you know where they're supposed to pay, and then this money is going to go to a bank account. But if you borrow it, it's not going to go. It's going to be delayed. So in the process you have, when you give the money to the bank account, you have netting or clearing, and so you have a clearing date. So, and also you have the customer that has a bank statement. So basically, what is a gain is a cash, obviously. There is also the source. The hypothesis is going to, you're going to say, okay, the guy is borrowing, and usually the lapping, you expect a new cash coming in, and you put, you have customer number one, you get the money, customer number two is paying, you get the cash, and you put in customer number one the money from customer number two, and then you go on and on. So how can you detect this issue? You need to define the hypothesis, define the source of information. So you are going to work on dates, and also you want to focus on people who are paying on cash, because this is where the risk is. And the test you're going to conduct is you're going to check the delay between the number of days between the invoice due dates and the clearing, to see if there is something wrong, if there are recurrent delays, or there is something wrong, if there are long delays, for instance. And also to interpret, you need to take into account remember what I said, fraud, performance, or maybe the people are lazy and it takes them long to go to the bank to put the money. So that's why you have a delay. Now, this is a traditional, this is a usual process. What if they go further and they were amending the due dates on purpose? What will happen? Then you have the date, but you have a new date, and we can be close to the clearing date. So you won't see, if you compute, you won't see any difference. So this way, now you need to have a different approach. And this approach is going to be on parameters. You remember before I said activity, and there is second type of approach with parameters. And now you need to dig into the parameters of your system to identify if there have been changes on due dates. So this is technical information you can get. One of the tricks here is that so maybe you don't have parameters. And you remember I said by all means you need to find a solution. So one of the other thing you can do is say, okay, there is no parameters. I can't see the parameters, but what I can do is compute the difference between the due dates and between the sales date and the due date that is announced in the system. And maybe if someone changed the due dates, it's going to go to be wider. And this is the unusual information you were looking for. So there is always a will. When there is a will, there is a way. There's always a way to identify things. But if you have the parameters, so you are going to see there have been changes, you can go through the changes. So my last thing I want before I talk about unstructured data is master solution. So now let's talk about software. What is specific about software? So basically, I've been working with software for more than 10 years, and I know what they are worth. And what you really need to know is that you can start working with Excel, but the software I'm going to talk about, they can give you more power. And so for instance, there are formulas that are more practical, because for instance, if you join two tables, you can have 8 criteria. That is very helpful. And the other thing, as I said, it's volumes. You can treat a lot of volumes. How does it work? And also there is a question of compliance, as I said, robust evidence, because when you put the information in a software like this, it takes a picture. So there's an integrity, because you can't change a picture. You can change the data, the original data. Why in Excel you can change the data, and you don't have logs, you don't have information about what is going on. So that's basically what you have. I wanted to show you one other thing. There are 2 types of software. Now we have a lot of software where they are built controls on transaction. So this is I found this one where you can you put your information and there are built-in controls, and you can go through the transaction and identify. You define a control. So like here you say what is unusual is that there is only there is no reference information, and the system is going to scan all the transaction. It is going to show you the trends, what is happening, and then you can go deeper within the transaction. So that's one kind of software, but there are also software where you can design your own controls. And these controls, for instance, they are going to be, so as I said, join, you are comparing 2 tables. What is very important when you do this is really to have a relevant table on primary and secondary, and that's why it's a question of methodology. But in this, so this is IDE, another software, and this is very easy to do it, very powerful. You can compare two tables within the software. So main difference in software, so you can read the report from the ACFE, but there are some technical features, there are some features that you can connection with database, the fact that you can use a server or desktop, but most of the software are the same. And what is important is how you use them, what methodology leads you to this software. So you have this list of software. I will end this presentation by talking about unstructured data. Why is it important? Because unstructured data, a lot of people are reluctant to use them, but they are really useful. At the same time, this is it's current. People are using it because they are looking for documents, for emails, and as you can see, there are different types of unstructured data. But the approach is going to be the same. You are going to, so when you do analysis, you break down also, as I said, you break down the process here, you can break down the information you have. That's what is happening with what we call a natural language process. We cut the text into small pieces. Then the approach can be supervised. That means you know what you're looking for. Unsupervised, you don't know, and you can use machine learning to identify any compared data. Also, there is the same approach with gaps, because, for instance, if you know the frequency of a document, you have documents or files, you can see there is one missing, for instance. So that's a smaller thing. But what is, and we were discussing before, the basics. So what you are going to do with unstructured data, basically, is going to do search. So there is basic search, what we call keyword search, usually, with some alternative like fuzzy. That means that you can use misspelling. With a focus on trial goal topics, I will show you after on the software. That means that you know that there are some words you want to say. Advanced search, there is an advanced search. It's going to be, you can use list of keywords. That's more, it's more comfortable. I mean, it's useful because you give a list, you can give a list of more than 200 words, and the system is going to look for results. Instead of, if you work on Internet Explorer or in emails, you check one keyword by one. And it's true. So I'm going to talk about software after, but what is happening is that usually people are using Outlook or Internet Explorer, but I'm going to show you an alternative. And one of the other thing, and maybe you remember, it was down in the list, sentiment analysis. It's a new trend. That means that people are checking for feelings inside the information. Metadata is also information that is useful, that I will show you after. Just wanted to mention OSINT. OSINT is checking information, data on thing. Quickly tell you about, you can make a test in Excel to get a list from your folders. Turn the list on your folders into a list on Excel. By you go into Excel, you open a new file, you can check this. So I wanted to, so this is from the report. There is a lot of people who are 29% using software for unstructured data, what we call e-discovery. And I'm going to talk to you quickly about Autopsy. Autopsy is a software that is used by the American police post, so it's an official one. It's also an open source. That means it's free. It's a free software you can find, and as you can see, it's in the list of the ACFE, so it's reliable. Legal advice, just to say that you need to follow some legal advice, and let's walk the dog. So if I have time, I will just give you a snapshot of, just, oops, here is a, okay. Just I prepared you something just to show you a quick thing. So I have in my trainings, I set up immersive data. So I prepare synthetic data that people can prepare, can work on to test. And here I have done, because it is very difficult to have this to do this, because usually there is data privacy on email. So what I do is I manage this as a scenario with fake emails and in fake information. So you see here, I took the I put into the software a file with and there are emails in it. So you can, with the software, you can see here the type of files you have by extension. There's also a way to identify the deleted files, because you need to know that you never delete files. When you delete a file, you're just saying, oh, this place is free. If you want, you can use it. Something. Yes, sorry. Yes, so I'm showing the software. Sorry. Okay, so and then just wanted to say here you have the keywords, so you can define the keywords and you can do your search. You start the search and he's going to give you the information. And that's all I wanted to show you. No, the other thing is that you can tag here. You can tag the information so that you can see the information. The other thing is that compared to Outlook, this is inside the this is inside the software. It's a picture, and so you can't modify it contrary to what you have in Excel. So I'm done with this presentation. Hassan, sorry, I'm a bit late.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. We have few questions. I will read for you. Nowadays, AI predictive analytics is used for fraud monitoring. However, what other tools can I use or integrate for fraud data analytics? And what about the Python?
So Python is it's not easy. It's yes, you can use Python. Python is replacing all this software, and Python is free. The only thing with Python is that you need to learn Python, or there are some trainings. But yes, it's useful, and Python can be useful for text. So now I'm working on techniques using Python because it can read text more than most of the software. I don't know if it's a good.
Thank you so much, sir. Attendees, dear attendees, sorry for we are running short of time. We have time constraints, so we cannot take more questions. We will approach our speaker and we'll get back the answers and we'll get back to you, inshallah. Thank you so much. And Officer Mr. Emmanuel Pascal, it was a really informative and wonderful presentation by you. And I hope we had a good time more to learn about this software which you were explaining to us. Really, I will prefer to use this, inshallah, to learn more and practice more. Thank you so much once again.
Okay, thank you. It was a pleasure. And as I said yesterday, if you want more details on the software, we can rediscuss. We can have more sessions.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank CBFS, College of Banking Finance, who are sponsoring our chapter activities. I would like to thank all the attendees who are the reason for our chapter existence. They are attending and they are participating, as well as they are giving their valuable feedback, which is very helpful for us. And thank you so much for everyone for supporting us. There is some small announcement for you that please scan this our QR code. This is our upcoming event, which will be webinar session, effectiveness of internal controls to prevent cyber crimes. The speaker will be Mr. Ahsan Zamir. He is a professional with more than 15 years of substantial experience. So please scan this QR code and register yourself and subscribe our YouTube channel. And we are going to upload this webinar session video. Sir, you permit us to upload this video?
Sorry?
We can upload this video webinar recording. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Thank you so much, and I hope our attendees can see the screen, that is QR code of our upcoming webinar session, which will be on 1st May. Speaker will be Mr. Ahsan Zamir, and the webinar topic will be effectiveness of internal control to prevent cyber crimes. We have already published in LinkedIn, and we'll share in the WhatsApp group as well. Thank you so much once again, everyone, and thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Pascal, for a wonderful presentation once again. So we'll see you in our upcoming webinar session. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.